So the Seiko SNXS 79K is part of the Seiko 5 line, and I think you guys know that there is tremendous value for money watches in that line, and this one is no exception. I think that this one has got to be the best affordable alternative to the Rolex Datejust. I was looking for a Seiko 5 watch because I know that they give a lot of value for money. That could be your only watch, your everyday watch that looks good in pretty much any occasion, and that was under $100 and at the same time look like a Rolex Datejust, because I think the Datejust, just like the Oyster Perpetual, is one of those watches that can pull off pretty much everything under the sun. But enough talking, you guys want to see the watch, so let's jump right into it. And here it is in all its glory. I think this watch, it is all about the dial. You can see already that sunburst effect here, but it's not quite pronounced because there's not so much direct light hitting the dial. It is definitely gray at the light and that kind of dark gray in the shade, not black. But this thing really shines when there's direct light hitting the dial. You can see here, I am passing a light by just to show you just how beautiful that sunburst effect is. Very nice looking in the sun. This sings. And with this light, you can also see that the hour indices and the logo, the Seiko 5 logo, are applied, which is pretty crazy for the price of this watch. And now without direct light, again, you can see those applied hour indices and logo. A very, very cool detail. I think that this gives this watch a lot of depth. So you have this small window with the day and the date complication right there, and a small bevel around it, which is in metal as well. That gives a nice light play also. And when it comes to the hour hands and the indices, you have those very distinctive baton hands and rectangle hour indices, which really resembles the Rolex Datejust. And this has got to be the most faithful and affordable alternative when it comes to the Rolex Datejust. Really a very nice package for just a fraction of the cost. Very well done there, Seiko. It has a case size of 37 millimeters, a lug-to-lug distance of just above 42 millimeters, always good for smaller wrists. It has a lug-to-lug distance of 19 millimeters, which is not standard, and a case height of 11.7 millimeters, but you will see that this one wears a little bit bigger than the actual measurement suggests. The shape of the case is, I think, not super great. The finishing is good. As you can see here, those edges are pretty sharp and look very good, but the shape of the case itself is not so great. You know, the watch sits pretty high on the wrist, and you will see that as soon as I will put it on my wrist. And you know, it's not that perfect right there, but for the price you really can't complain. Now from this angle you can see also that polished bezel, which again gives this watch a very versatile look and very good look as well. It is very well finished. I just wish that this case, you know, was a little bit thicker on the bottom right here, and that those lugs were not so flat, because you can see that gap right here on the wrist. So in typical Seiko 5 fashion, you have the crown at 4 o'clock, and it's a non-screw down crown. You just have to pull it out in order to set the time or the day and date complication. You get, by the way, the 7S26 movement, which is the exact same movement that you get in the Seiko SKX 007 or 013, meaning that it's not hacking, as you can see now. The seconds hand doesn't stop, and it is not hand winding. Now, unlike the SKX, you have an exhibition case back, which allows you to look at the movement even if it's not the most gorgeous looking movement. It has been working pretty fine for me within standard, so 38 hours of power reserve, and within 5 to 10 seconds a day. I'm pretty lucky when it comes to 7x26 movements. I don't have to regulate, and you guys know that I'm not super picky when it comes to accuracy, so even if it was 50 seconds off, I wouldn't be too bothered by it. But there you go, pretty good straight out of the factory right there. From this angle you can also see the hollow end links, which are part of this bracelet, and this is really the bad thing about this watch. The bracelet is super flimsy. So I know it's a folded metal bracelet, but not all of them are so flimsy and, you know, so uncomfortable, because this one is very lightweight, and when you put it on your wrist, it makes your watch sometimes wear a little bit weird. So one thing that I have to give credit for this bracelet is how good it looks. It's actually very good. It's not super comfortable. Sometimes you will pinch hair just like now. And you know, not the best experience ever, but the look is very great actually. The first links right there really fold flat. Well, the lug-to-lug distance doesn't change, which is always good for smaller wrists. Here you can see that this metal part is bent. I did it myself because originally this part was pretty flat, and so it would stick out just like a marshmallow roasting stick. First and foremost, it looked bad and it was not super comfortable. So this is why I had to bend it. And when you close that clasp, it's, you know, the sound is weird. It doesn't really close in a nice way, but this is secure. It didn't fail on me, no problem there. Not the best experience when it comes to the bracelet itself, but you still get those micro adjustments. You get 5 of them, which is always good if you want to change the bracelet size on the go. The second thing that bothers me is the huge gap that you have here, and this is because, well, the case is so thin on this part. If it was a little bit bigger right here, well, the lugs could have been closer to the wrist and really hug that part, but because of that, because it's not made that way, well, that watch really sits high on the wrist, even if it's not that tall. And this is just because of the case design. You know, it's a very affordable watch, so I'm not complaining, but you have to take that into consideration if you don't want these weird looking gaps right there. Even if you have a bigger wrist than mine, it will still be there. But I'm just nitpicking here. It's a very affordable watch, and what are you expecting for a price? I mean, they put all the work in the watch in itself, and I think that's the good move right there, because you can actually change that bracelet. And now it's time for a little wrist roll for you guys. Obviously, if you don't like the metal bracelet, you can change it for something else, like say a leather strap. I'm gonna go with this suede strap that I got from my Timex Expedition Scout watch. It's a 20mm strap, but it's gonna work on this watch no problem because it is kind of soft and pliable. So if you want to do that, just go for a leather strap that is not super stiff, or else you won't be able to fit it within the lugs of this watch. So really nothing special right here. By using a spring bar tool, you can remove the spring bar and the bracelet right here, and well, the lug will be ready to receive your new strap. Just make sure to keep the spring bar because you will need it, and of course the end link will come loose, so do not lose this. Here I just removed the other part, so here is the bracelet. I will take the spring bar as well, so it's just a matter of sliding that spring bar in the leather strap and then putting it into place within the holes. Just make sure that the spring bar is well within the holes, or of course the strap will go away and your watch might fall. You don't want that to happen. Just make sure by wiggling a little bit until you hear that snap. Can't hear it? No, see, it's out. You really have to be careful with this. Let's try again. Now it's good. You heard that? Okay, so now it's nice and secure. Let's do the other side, and again I will use my spring bar tool to make it easier. There you go, and you know, you heard that snap, so now it's good, and you have a brand new watch, and you don't have to deal with the metal bracelet if you do not like it. And so here it is on my 6-inch wrist. Of course it will look totally different than the metal bracelet. It looks very good, but you still have that problem where the case actually sits high on the wrist. This is just the way the watch is made. That case just won't go closer to your wrist even if you change the strap. But this one, I have to say, is way more comfortable and it looks totally different. So you basically get 2 watches for the price of 1. This is true for pretty much every watch, of course, but now you have a dressier look, and this is why this watch might very well be the only watch that you ever need if you really want something that really looks good, but at the same time you don't want to spend that much money. I think this is a very good option if you're looking for a very, very affordable Rolex Datejust alternative. And so here it is as seen from a distance on my 6-inch wrist. Of course it works. This watch, being a 37mm watch, will work on pretty much every wrist on the planet, which is a good thing. I know a lot of you guys have bigger wrists than mine and still love smaller watches. this one could be very well the only small watch, affordable one, alternative to the Rolex Datejust if you want that kind of style. So of course, as seen from this distance, you cannot see the gap right here that there's between the case and your wrist. So if you're wondering if this will sit weirdly on your wrist for other people to look, it just won't. And even myself, when I'm looking at the time just like that, just doesn't show that much. You know, it's facing me, I don't see it. I only see it when I look at the watch like that, but really, who does? So you guys know that I like to rate my watches to know if it fits within my collection, depending on 5 factors, so here we go. Is it straightforward? Well, I will say this is a straightforward watch. 5 out of 5 for this particular factor. You know, there's not much going on the dial. Of course, you have that beautiful sunburst gray dial, but that's about it. You have a 3-hander watch with baton hands and baton hour indices, day and date complication, and that's about it. Of course, if you like no date, no day complication, well, that might be a little bit too much for you, but I think it is still a pretty straightforward piece. You really do understand what it's all about just by looking at it in one go, so 5 out of 5. Second, does it stand out? And this is kind of a tricky one because when you wear this watch inside, you don't get to see that beautiful sunburst effect on the dial, but you do when you're wearing this watch on the outside. So it really depends where you're gonna wear this watch. Most of the time, I wear it inside. I'm not, you know, outside all the time. And so I would say that this one gets a 3 out of 5. Not a bad thing per se, but you know, it's a really straightforward, simple watch that really doesn't draw any attention, and so here it is, 3 out of 5. Is it refined? Well, you can go back in the video and check those close-up shots, and you will see that yes, there's a lot of refinement especially for the price of the watch. You know, I cannot do anything else but give this one a 5 out of 5. Is it comfortable? Well, you know, the bracelet is not so great. And the fact that it sits kind of high on the wrist, as you saw in the video, really doesn't help with the comfort, even if it's a really smaller and lighter watch. So I would give this one a 4 out of 5. Nonetheless, it is pretty lightweight, so still comfortable. And what about the what the hell factor? You know, I will be comparing this watch to other everyday watches, not tool watches, dive watches, because it doesn't make any sense. When I want to wear this one, I'm trying to see if I want another everyday watch or maybe a dress watch. And in this regard, I think that this one gets a very nice 4 out of 5 because I don't want to wear it all the time, but it's pretty much very high in my list. And for 2 reasons, the style of the watch and the comfort. And this is why, well, it wins kind of few times when I want to wear an everyday watch. This one is a cracking one, so a very good 4 out of 5. So does this watch fit in my collection? And overall it gets a solid 84%, so the answer is just yes. And really, you just can't go wrong for the price and the look of this watch. Of course, I will put a link in the description if you wanna get one for yourself. Now guys, please let me know what you think about this SNXS 79K, because I think it's a cracking watch, but I know that the Seiko 5 line is just huge. So maybe you have another alternative that can really compete against this very watch. So please let everybody know in the comment section below. Of course, if you like this video, well, please hit that like button, and I will be posting more reviews and lists. So if you want to stay tuned about that, about watches for small wrists and watches in general, because that's what we like around here, was subscribe to the channel and check that little bell icon so you get notified as soon as I post a new video. And in the meantime, thank you so much for dropping by. Stay stylish and keep watching.